Hi, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of the SoCal Prep Report with Estrella, along with Bob Gibson and Randy Rosenblum. And joining us tonight is Sina Aghassy, a volleyball coach from Chatsworth High School, and of course, Ray Fenton, the head coach over at Los Alamitos High School. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight.
Appreciate having us.
Hey, thanks for being brave enough to come out and talk to these guys tonight. Of course, guys, we've been talking the last couple of weeks. We've been kind of excited because July was supposed to be the month that everybody was opening up. NBA, Major League Baseball, you know, the NFL's going forward. We know the SEC's playing football, even if the Ivy League's not. Everybody else in the SEC's going to play. So, but, you know, in terms of the high schools right now, and Ray, I'm going to talk to you first. You guys were able to go out, do some workouts and everything, and then yesterday they kind of dropped the hammer on you guys, man. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, June 15th was the day we were supposed to start, and we did. We went through extensive training through our district. Every coach that was going to be on the field or in the gym had to go through a training through our district. And, man, it was really, really tight. They wouldn't even let parents on campus. They could drop their kid off, but they had to leave. And I really think our district did an amazing job of just organizing that. And we were rolling. We finally got in the groove. We're 3 weeks in. Everything's great. And then for whatever reason, they just shut it down.
Yeah, I was shocked yesterday when I saw the report. They were just closing everybody down. Coach Aghassy, I know we just talked to you. We were talking off the air a couple seconds ago, and you know, you guys got to wait still because we had Dolan down from the LA City section here last week, and he was telling us that they were going to have a meeting at the latter part of this month to figure out exactly what the LAUSD was going to do. What can you tell us thus far?
Yeah, you know, we're just kind of in limbo, just like a lot of other people. You know, as I mentioned, there's that July 20th C.I.F state announcement that's going to come out. But through LAUSD, you know, we're a little bit more of a conservative district within, you know, liability and everything that's going on. And we're waiting up until August 18th, until when school starts back up, you know, whatever that might look like, just to see what we can do sports-wise and, you know, what we can do with our athletes moving forward.
All right, Bob, Randy, hit it.
Yeah, I want to start it with Sina because he's the first volleyball coach we've talked to since we've had COVID. And Sina, you know, I look at volleyball and you see all those great celebrations. How can you tamp down the celebrations? How can the girls play volleyball and not celebrate? How do you keep them from showing their emotion?
Yeah, it's tough to go away from what you're so used to doing for so much of your life and playing a sport. And, you know, there's going to have to be some adjustments across, you know, every sport. There's going to have to be some limitations with what we can do. You know, I was talking to some coaches the other day about, you know, how are we going to deal with only having maybe 2 days of practice? You know, and I'm one of those coaches. If we only get 2 days, I'm okay with it. You know, whatever it takes to get sports back on the map. That's, you know, what I want to do. And there's going to be some adjustments. You know, maybe, you know, kids might not be able to, you know, not wear a mask on the bench or some sort of adjustment. But, you know, whatever it is, I think as a sports team and as a, you know, league and, you know, whole community as a whole, we're going to figure out a way to adjust as we go.
Has it been brought up at all to maybe the possibility of playing with masks on? Is that even a possibility or something that you would entertain with your team?
Well, you know, I haven't heard playing with a mask. I've heard of, you know, players that are not playing wearing a mask. You know, within the club setting, they came out with some guidelines, you know, through USA Volleyball as well. You know, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like as we inch closer to August or January, whenever that might start up. You know, hopefully the numbers start to decline and, you know, some of those adjustments can be made. But, you know, we're going to follow whatever guidelines the experts think are safe, you know, just to make sure that our players, coaches, and refs are, you know, in safe and good hands.
See, this is my whole issue with the whole thing is I don't know if anybody knows anything about anything right now. But I don't mean to sound glib or, you know, or you know, whatever. But, you know, what's the difference between somebody sitting on the bench wearing a mask? Well, if you're sitting on the bench, a mask is somehow going to help you. But if you're on the court, it's not. And what do we consider celebrating? Is a high five? You can't have a high five. I get it. There's more contact sports, and Coach, we'll get to you. And football is a whole different, you know, kettle of fish to figure out here. But we're talking volleyball here, and you know, there's not a lot of contact going on. I don't think anybody knows anything about anything. We're making it up as we go, and maybe that's because we have to. But you know, we need to think, I think, common sense about what some of these things look like. And if you're going to have a mask on the bench, how is that any different than being on the playing surface? Has that been explained to you at all, Coach?
No, not much has been explained. I know NFHS had some guidelines that they came out with for, getting back into it. And in volleyball, it said, no ball should be passed between one player to another. And you can't play the game that way, right?
That's
And I
not
think they were
volleyball.
thinking, and I think they were thinking more so along the lines of, if we're going to get back to it, maybe we'll have an individual ball with a player so they can still get their touch. Just like in football, they're using the towel to kind of, go through some of the throwing motions. But it's unprecedented, like you said, who's to say what's right, what's wrong. And I hope that maybe they try to adjust maybe the scheduling, some of the more contact sports or indoor sports maybe at a later time, whereas maybe a golf or a tennis, wouldn't be as exposed with contact and whatnot and that risk that goes involved with it.
Right.
Coach Fenton, I got to ask you now, now that they've shut you down and you guys already had a taste of it, you guys are already kind of working out, getting ready for the season, but what now? How do you manage it now? You've already guys kind of been, having some work that you've been getting together, so to speak. But what do you do now? How do you go forward while you're waiting?
It's interesting. So we've been on for 3 weeks, and the improvement we've shown in just footwork and conditioning, all those things that you have to have leading into the season to prevent injury, has been remarkable over 3 weeks. To see where we are on some measurable things on the first couple of days to where we are now this week when we test on Monday, is pretty impressive. And, all that prevents injury. So now you're just going to back us off and say, you just wasted 3 weeks because, it really only takes 1 week to get yourself back to where you were physically, conditioning-wise. So the advantage that we have in football and of course volleyball does too is to use the huddle process where I communicate with my guys. Traditionally we talk to our guys as a group before practice starts, and then we kind of review at the end. Everybody bunched together, and we eliminated that, and the message goes out before practice on huddle and then again after practice. So they get their device, and then whatever the review was of practice, they're just reading it. So we made those adjustments. And going through these 3 weeks has been really great. It really has. I mean, for nothing else, just besides the physical part of it, our kids are around each other again, and there's laughter going on the field, and there's good feelings going on the field. And you talk about the celebration. We are very mindful of our spacing. We are staying 6 feet apart at all times. But, man, you can really connect at 6 feet, just with a look and a laughter and the teasing that's going on in practice. I mean, that's all really healthy. We talked about the physical part of it, and training that part of it, but you can't simulate on huddle the emotional part of it and guys making that connection with each other. Football players and volleyball players, we're in it together, right? And we have that bond. There's a good reason to have reunions with special teams down the road because you've made those connections, and you're trying to do it through video or through a message written on huddle. It's just not happening. So it was great on many levels, physically and emotionally, to be back on the field again.
Coach Fenton, how do you protect your players in a case of COVID? I know they're talking about experiment helmets with a visor. Is that reasonable? Then there's breathing issues. How do you protect your football players in this environment?
It's interesting because one of our former players plays for the Titans. And I think it was at the NFL flashed a helmet that, kind of looked very futuristic and mask and all that stuff. And our former player tweeted, "I would die if I had to wear that." And he's an offensive lineman, and obviously you want to protect yourself, as far as wearing a mask on the sidelines or whatever it is. And maybe, honestly, guys, it might be a good idea for me to wear a mask or even a muzzle because it's an emotional game and we get fired up. And sometimes you say something you wish you could get back in your mouth, and maybe that muzzle might catch some of that. So maybe all coaches should have to wear a mask for other reasons. But as far as protecting our kids, what we've done in the last 3 weeks and how we were trained in our district is we really recorded everything. They had everything get logged in, and our guys stayed in pods up to 10 people. So if something did happen and a kid did test positive, we could track it back to where, when, and how within our football program and the guys that were exposed to it. It wouldn't be all 150 guys that we have throughout the day coming through. It'd be through that 10 players a pod. So I really think the guidelines in phase 2 that we've been following to the national federal guidelines were outstanding and very protective, as long as the coaches will stay to that. There's some post out there where a kid at a different school is posting something on social media and you see everybody's all bunched up in a huddle. You know, you're just shaking your head because they're screwing everybody over, the guys that are doing it right. But for us, I think it's just us logging so we can track. If it does happen, we can track it back to maybe 10 guys, which is, you know, if you can track one pod that maybe was affected, you at least eliminated 140 guys that were not within that pod or shared that ball or that bar or whatever it might have been. So, like I say, I think our district did a great job of that. We were following the guidelines to the T, the national guidelines. And why they shut it down, I don't know. I just hope, you know, they come out with the new guidelines and it's people who are really on the front line, who really know sports, who really know the interaction, write the guidelines, not just people that are sitting there looking at numbers. I really think it's people that are exposed to athletics or have some exposure to that really understand what's going on to get us back out there as soon as possible. From what I understand, they might be making an announcement this Thursday. And if they make that announcement, I know our district will hammer out the details and get us back out there as fast as possible.
Let me put this out there to both coaches. Are we looking at this the correct way? I know we're talking a lot about player safety and making sure the players are safe, but are we looking at it, you know, the amount of what this virus affects young people is very small. Where it affects is the older population. A lot of coaches, right? A lot of people on the coaching staff. We're talking about coaches, talking about athletic directors, talking about referees and officials on the field. Should we be talking more about how this affects them and how we're protecting you guys as you're out there coaching and the officials and all the older population? Not to say anybody here is old, but you know, the adults in the room that are more likely to be affected by this, I guess is the best way to put it.
Go ahead, Coach. You want to start?
Well, Sina's a young guy. Sina's only 28 years of age, so he's not in that elderly population, but certainly let's hear what the coach has to say.
Okay, no, I can answer that. And really what I want is just a choice. I want the option to put myself out there. You know, listen, and this is pretty dramatic analogy here, but our guys are signing up for the military to go in and fight, you know, and they know the consequences and the position they're putting themselves into. I want that same option. I want to have the option of going into the front line and expose myself for, in my opinion, a good cause. Let me have that option. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and I would even say on my side, I think about the coaches and the refs, and refs in particular too, because they're so close to the court and what's going on with the kids. But like Coach Ben was saying, you know, everyone's got to have an option. You know, we have to face that reality that even when we do come back, whenever that might be, there might be an option that some players don't. You know, some coaches might not. You know, so it's going to look different. And you know, I've heard of even models where, you know, the seasons are cut a little bit closer together. And you think about multi-sport athletes, you think about referees who even dip into multiple sports, and even coaches who coach multiple sports as well. You know, there's going to be a lot of tough decisions, and you don't know who you have at home, you know, whether you're living with mom or dad or grandma, grandpa. There's a lot of tough decisions to be made ahead. And, you know, like I said, I hope that we can adjust and figure something out moving forward.
Now, Sina, I know you coached the boys and the girls. You've had great success, 6 years at Chatsworth, 4 city titles. You won the girls' championship last year. The girls always seem to be a little bit more mature than the boys at this stage of their life. Have you had conversation with your players about COVID, and are they, in your mind, more mature about the situation?
You know, well, we had this situation with the boys. Obviously, their season was already cut short, and I would say that's probably the hardest thing that I've had to do coaching, you know, through all the ups and downs, just to be able to have to tell your seniors that this is it, you know, and this is kind of what they've, you know, been working towards. And, you know, the conversations with some of my girls' teams, you know, we have about 10 seniors this year. I told them, look, you know, you guys have to come with grips that maybe this might not happen. You know, if you asked me 3 months ago, you know, I would have thought it would have blown over by now, right? But this, you know, this whole situation has just kind of took a turn for the worse, and we didn't think we would be here. But they're pretty much in tune with what's going on. They're trying to stay active and engaged as possible. But yeah, I know Coach Fenton was laughing about it. The girls take things a little bit more serious with the paperwork and all the other stuff and all the intricate details that might have to. You get a little bit more from the guys in other areas, which makes it fun coaching girls and boys. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and we're kind of wrapping our head around all the possibilities, yet preparing for what's to come.
You said, Coach, you said at that age, girls are more mature. And I looked over at my wife and I'm going, although I look way more mature than she does, she runs the house. It hasn't changed, from 18 to where we are now. That hasn't ever changed. I think I'm all for it, man. I think women do it right.
Interesting. All right, let's shift gears a little bit, fellas. Let's take a look at the big picture now. Well, this is the bigger picture in our world right here, but today, I believe I read somewhere that the Ivy League has already canceled their fall sports season, which means they're not going to play football this year. I thought that was very interesting coming from the Ivy League. My question is, do you think more conferences will follow suit?
Listen, what I know about the Ivy League, and obviously it's very prestigious, I think football is a little more of an activity than it is a sport there. And I might take some heat for this, but they don't have playoffs. They don't have the playoffs. They don't have spring football traditionally in college. There aren't any pads or anything of that nature. You know what I mean? They want those kids to have that college football experience. That's why a lot of them go there. But more so for them in the Ivy League, it's all about the education. In a lot of other places, it's not that way. It's a little more, if you're a football player, in some cases, you might be a little more towards football. But I really believe in the Ivy League. I think they do a phenomenal job. I think they're great. But at the same time, I think they're very, very cautious when it comes to sports and it comes to athletics. They have it in a different perspective than maybe some other divisions do.
Forget the Ivy League.
To me, more alarming is what happened with Stanford.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up, Randy.
Bob, you and I think a lot. 11 sports being cut, and Sina, you can speak to the fact men's volleyball got cut at Stanford. I mean, the 11 sports going by the wayside at Palo Alto really cuts to the heart of college sports. There's a school that academically is so strong, financially you think that they would be very, very solid. Sina, their volleyball team is no longer.
For rumblings and rumors about certain colleges and NCAA sports that might be on the fence of just getting cut with their championships. And this is kind of the first big announcement with Stanford. And, there's so many other sports with fencing and hockey and whatnot that was happening and going on at Stanford that it's devastating, and I hope it's not a trend of what's to come. I was reading somewhere that their, planned deficit is about $23 million. They're not the only college and school to feel those, repercussions. And, I think when we were talking about men's volleyball or just sports in general, it's easy to come back from a setback, but as soon as you cut the program, it's almost impossible to bring it back. And, then the sport in general. So we're really hoping, and we have a lot of support. I tell a lot of people, my buddy Renee Lopez always says, the volleyball community is such a small community, and they're very tight-knit and supportive. And, we've had many petitions signed to, make sure that there's some considerations for the sport and all the sports that are, in danger. And that was a total blow, and I hope that it's not a sign of things to come and we can figure some things out moving forward.
Yeah, well, I thought this was the most alarming thing because this is a private university where it costs $75,000 a year to attend, a private school. We're not even talking about a state-funded school here that just killed off 11 sports teams, including men's volleyball.
Bob, I'm shocked that they did that because as well as I do, Stanford's got deep pockets. I don't want to hear that they didn't have. They don't have the money, and because football probably may or may not go forward, we're just going to, err on the side of caution and not, spend that money. They have it. 23 million is like 23 cents to the average person. It's nebulous, and I'm just shocked that they're going to do that.
And it's personal, guys. We're talking about coaches losing their jobs. One of the coaches at Stanford is Yaz Farouk. She was my color analyst on rowing in the Olympics back in the good old days in Athens in 2004 when we worked for NBC. And Yaz has done a great job. She's got a national title at Stanford and she lost her job. So, I feel bad for Yaz. She's a super lady, unfortunately. going to have to look somewhere else to work with a rowing team.
And I'll even say this.
I think unfortunately this opens it up to other schools saying, okay, now it's okay for us to do it. If Stanford did it, we can do it. I think we're going to see a lot of schools now, unfortunately, start to cut sports. And boy, I just hope this doesn't become a trend.
And I'm glad that at least they're still honoring their scholarships and their coaches, pay at least, that's the least I think that they can do. But like you said, I hope it's not a sign of things to come.
Yeah.
And just what I referred to earlier, and again, I'll probably take a lot of heat for this, but probably the people that are making those decisions never lace up their tennis shoes or their cleats. They just don't really understand what sports does for people. As an individual, as they grow, as a group of people, as they come together, they just don't understand that. Like I said, my English 100 class that I had, we don't have any reunions, but that team that I played on, we get together still, and I think those experiences, especially at a place like Stanford, so prestigious, that wants big picture, that sees the big picture and wants a full development of people, and you take a major component of their development out for financial reasons, that's really baffling to me, and it's unfortunate.
Don't forget Fullerton and Long Beach cut down their football programs, never returned. We still have not seen football at either one of those colleges. UC Irvine cut baseball back in the early 90s, and it took almost 20 years to get baseball back there. I was surprised it even did come back, but eventually they were able to get their baseball program back up and running. It's a pretty good one to this date. But yeah, Coach, you mentioned it. Once you cut a sport, it's hard to get it back.
Yeah, Cal State Northridge cut their football program, and it's never come back.
That's another one. Yep. No, just let's hope this doesn't build upon itself.
Yeah, it's. I'm just shocked again that the big money school like Stanford whip out. I'm even shocked that the Ivy League didn't even bother wanting to forge ahead and maybe take a lead role in this thing and figure it out. It's supposed to be smart over there. You think they would do something, but maybe the smart thing is to let it go. I don't know. I'm not advocating that. I want to see everything just go status quo the way it's been, and let's see what happens. It's got to. I mean, you got to hope for the best at some point, right, fellas? At least I think that way.
You would think.
And you would even think, before all this happened, they were making money through their sports, right, and the whole way that it was set up. Although they're going to be in a deficit over time, they're going to recover from that, right?
Absolutely.
Like I mentioned before, you're not going to recover from cutting a sport or for good from your program.
And I'm not saying this isn't a serious situation, but let's look at the facts, though. Look at Ezekiel Elliott for an example. He's 28 years old. He's in peak, he's 24. He's in peak condition. So he's pretty close to the college age athlete. And he said, I had a cough for like a day, and that was it. I mean, he just pretty much just blew it out. No big deal. So I got to think, most of these college kids, it would probably, hopefully, it would treat them all the same way, where they can, the odds are on their side that they would come through with nothing, just like Ezekiel did. The odds are, I know there's going to be special circumstances with everybody or different people, but for the most part, I think the young folks can blow through this thing. I mean, they've been doing it for a long time now. It's the older folks that are getting hit. Like Ray. Ray would have to worry. Sorry, Ray.
Which is why I brought that up. Are we looking at it from the right standpoint?
The other factor is lingering effects, gentlemen. Even though they're younger, and I was a proponent early on, and I still am, that the kids can play because they are young and they do recover. But now they're discovering lingering effects, which is bothersome. So you might overcome the disease, but down the road, we still don't know, and only time will tell what it does to your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the scariest part is just people being asymptomatic and just being those carriers, and we have no idea, right? How many people they've come across and what's been going on. And, I think that's the biggest part of the contingency plan that needs to be thought out is what happens when they get it, right? What happens when that test happens? Are we able to trace it like Coach was saying, And I don't know when school comes back, how that's going to look and what it can be like. But, it's something that definitely we have to look through that lens as well.
I really hope we just pay attention to those numbers. You don't know what to believe anymore, whether you read it or see it on the news. It's just so fluffed up, and it's almost like a math word problem where you have to cut out all of the crap and just give me the numbers that I have to work on here and see where it really digests. But I think there's so many different agendas out there that it's really hard to know what the truth is. And that's really unfortunate that people will spin it one way or another to fit what they want when really that might not be the fact, and you're affecting so many other people's lives. just to fit your own agenda.
That is so true, man. That is so true. Listen, guys, we're getting to the end. Coach Aghassy, I'm going to let you have your final shot for right now. We're going to go around. Go ahead, Aghassy. What do you got? Anything you want.
Yeah, I really hope that we can get back to some sort of normalcy with sports, and just, I think obviously the professional sports with NBA coming back and MLB starting getting their schedule started, I think it'll put some more people at, minds at ease, and I hope that it doesn't, like Coach said, limit the experiences and the culture that, we've developed over the years for our kids, and those experiences that are so valuable that they should have, moving forward. And, I was talking to someone the other day, through LAUSD, and they said, they're coming back contingency plan and committee, and, athletics is going to get one slide within that, right? And how can you even portray what that's going to be like in one slide within the whole big picture? And, I just, my heart goes out to all the seniors that might potentially be affected moving forward. And, I really, really hope for the best for, our program, volleyball and our section and just all of California, because it seems like everyone's going off on their own thing, different states and what they're doing. And I hope that, eventually we can come together and give these kids some sort of normalcy moving forward.
Man, I hope the same thing. Coach Fenton, your final shot.
I think our booster president said it best the other day when we got the letter that everybody was shut down in the county, and he just said, what gives them the right to tell me how to raise my son? If I want to put them and let them participate in something and I sign all the waivers, understanding the risk behind it, who are you guys to tell me that I can't do that with my son? It's still my family. It's my son. It's my responsibility. I should be able to put him where I think he belongs. And I just text back, hey, you're right. End of story.
Well, you want my final shot? I'm going to say everybody wear a mask.
I was muted. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, let's get this thing under control. I mean, social distancing is not necessarily fun, but we're all doing it. Let's wear the mask. Let's do what the experts say. Let's try to tamp it down. Then we know we can get back. Everyone's got to do their part. It starts with you individually. Every single one of us has to do our job.
And I would just add to that, I think we have to just take this thing week by week, month by month. Let's not jump ahead of ourselves. Let's not cancel things months out in advance, because a lot of this is taking twists and turns as we've gone on here. So I think we need to get the best information we have, week to week, month to month, and we base our decisions on that, and we do the best we can. And I've said it before on the show, I'll say it again. At some point, it's going to be a leap of faith. I think Coach Fenton kind of talked about that as well. And that leap of faith is going to be up to a lot of people to decide on their own whether to do. But at some point, we're all going to have to be in that boat. And we just hope we have the best information on hand to make those decisions.
And on top of what Coach Fenton said, I wholeheartedly agree. We sign waivers all our lives, man. My parents were signing waivers when I was in Little League, and signing waivers for my kid to play basketball and football and baseball and everything else. So in a way, it's no different. But I understand, the attorneys, once they get involved, they smell money. And there'll definitely be some litigious stuff out there going on. If somebody at some school gets sick and some parent decides, it's a payday, here's what we want. So I think that's why the caution is there on that end versus way back when we were kids where, man, you just played. Somebody got hurt, you went to the doctor, got it fixed. Nobody was suing anybody. But I think that's where we're at right now, and it's unfortunate. But I agree with all you guys. Got to stay safe. Got to keep the distance. Got to keep wearing a mask when we're out. And coaches, I do not envy you guys with the job you have going forward. I don't envy either one of you. Good luck, though. Good luck.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
We appreciate it, yeah.
All right. On behalf of Coach Aghassy, Coach Ray Fenton from Los Alamitos, Aghassy from Chatsworth, on behalf of Bob Gibson and Randy Rosenblum, I'm Rich Estrella. First of all, thanks, gentlemen, for coming. And we're saying so long from the friends here at the SoCal Prep Report. See y'all next week.